You're standing in a jewelry store, staring at a ring that costs 3 months of someone's salary. The salesperson tells you it's rare, precious, 1 in a million. Here's the thing. It isn't. There's a warehouse in London right now holding enough uncut diamonds to flood the market and crash the price to nothing. It's been sitting there for decades. The company that owns it decided, on purpose, never to open the doors all the way. So the question isn't, why are diamonds rare? Diamonds aren't rare. Carbon squeezed into that crystal structure happens constantly, all over the world, all through history. The real question is harder. Why did an entire planet agree that a common rock was worth more than gold? And who benefited from convincing us of that? In 1867, a boy named Erasmus Jacobs picked up a strange, shiny pebble on the banks of the Orange River in South Africa. He was playing. He didn't know what he was holding. Neighbors thought it was a curiosity, maybe quartz. It turned out to be a 21-carat diamond, later called the Eureka diamond. That single pebble triggered a stampede. Within 2 years, thousands of prospectors were digging along that riverbank and then at a hill nearby that would later be called Kimberley, a hole so aggressively mined by hand that it's now one of the largest human-dug excavations on Earth, big enough to swallow a skyscraper. Here's the insight. Diamonds had existed in that ground for over 1 billion years, formed by carbon crushed at extreme pressure deep in the Earth's mantle, then shot to the surface by ancient volcanic eruptions called kimberlite pipes. Nothing about the diamond changed in 1867. What changed was that humans found a shortcut to something the planet had been quietly stockpiling since before there were eyes to see it sparkle. And that's the pattern that repeats through this whole story. Geology doesn't create value. Discovery, and what happens after discovery, does. By the 1880s, so many diamonds were pouring out of Kimberley that prices were collapsing. This was a problem for the men who owned the mines, and one of them, Cecil Rhodes, had an idea that would define the diamond industry for the next 100 years. Don't dig up everything you can. Control how much reaches the market. In 1888, Rhodes founded De Beers Consolidated Mines. And De Beers didn't just mine diamonds, it started buying up rival mines, one after another, until it controlled roughly 90% of the world's rough diamond supply. Economists have a name for this structure, a supply cartel. When you control almost all of a product, you don't need it to be naturally scarce. You just need to act like it is. Modern economic historians, including work compiled by researchers at Harvard Business School in the 1980s and 90s, point to De Beers as one of the most durable monopolies of the 20th century, not because diamonds were hard to find, but because De Beers made sure the world never found out how easy they actually were. That single decision, hoard, don't flood, becomes the hinge the rest of this story swings on. In 1938, De Beers had a different problem. Diamond sales in America had gone flat. The Great Depression had hollowed out luxury spending, and even wealthy buyers were treating diamonds as optional. So De Beers did something no mining company had really done before. It hired an advertising agency. N.W. Ayer & Son took the job, and in 1947, one of their copywriters, Francis Jarity, wrote 4 words late one night, almost as an afterthought, for a print ad: "A diamond is forever." That slogan did something remarkable. It didn't sell diamonds as pretty, it sold them as permanent, a symbol that could never be resold without seeming to admit the marriage failed. De Beers actively discouraged a resale market, because a resale market would mean people discovering what these stones were actually worth. Engagement ring purchases in the U.S. climbed from around 10% of proposals before the campaign to roughly 80% by the 1990s, a shift historians and marketers still study as one of the most successful demand creation campaigns ever run. The structural shift here isn't chemical, it's psychological. De Beers had taken a controlled supply and welded it to an uncontrollable emotion, the fear of appearing to love someone insufficiently. Then, in 2008, A physicist named Robert Gibale. No, let's name the real disruptor. It wasn't a person, it was a process. General Electric and later a wave of specialized companies perfected chemical vapor deposition, a lab technique that grows diamonds atom by atom in a chamber from a small diamond seed and a soup of carbon-rich gas. By the 2010s, companies like Diamond Foundry, backed by Silicon Valley money, were producing lab-grown diamonds chemically, optically, and physically identical to mined ones, verified as real diamond by the same gemological labs that certify natural stones, including the Gemological Institute of America. The only meaningful difference left was origin story. This is the pivot the whole video has been walking towards. For 100 years, De Beers convinced the world that scarcity was the source of value. Now, science had made scarcity optional, and yet, strangely, a huge slice of the market kept paying more for the natural version anyway.